Everybody get up, no need to cram now. We got a real jam going down, going down, going down, going down, going down, going down. Welcome to the IntelliJAMS.
Welcome back for another jam, my favorite type of jam. We have got a guest joining us. We've got Craig Kistler, who is the Senior Director of Personalization and Experimentation at Signet. And he also does the same thing on a side quest, a side hustle, doing consulting for e-commerce brands, doing the same thing. Craig and I kind of like randomly met through the LinkedIn verse probably like 2 months ago. And I think he's probably become my favorite person to talk to in experimentation. So Craig, I'm excited to bring you on to Jam. You're a wealth of knowledge and insight in the field. And yeah, would love to just kind of get your thoughts on new year. We're in 2026. I would love to talk about, in the world of experimentation, personalization, what should we be leaving behind in 2025? And what should we be doing more of in 2026? We'll keep it kind of open-ended like that. Let's jam on it.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, I think we'll start with the leave behind, because I think that's, at least for me, the easier. Just leave behind testing best practices. Leave behind the blue button tests. Leave behind, this is, might cause issues on LinkedIn. Leave behind all the things that you see on LinkedIn that everybody else is doing. You should do it too.
So let's dissect that a bit. Leave that behind. Why? Like, I agree. Testing I should test a button color if that there actually is a reason to test it, I think is the thing. Like, I think what we're saying is leave behind the fortune cookie wisdom that you see on Twitter and LinkedIn in the social spheres, and like, hey, I did it, so it's going to work for you. Is that an accurate thing to be leaving behind?
Yeah. Because often it's like, well, hey, so-and-so did this, so you should do it too. Maybe. But why did they do that? What are they trying to learn? What were they trying to solve from a problem standpoint? Like, there's so many what ifs and whys that is lost. And even in my posts too, right? Like, I'm not saying do this. I'm saying try this if it makes sense. So it's that, leave behind the idea of I can do what somebody else did because theoretically it worked for them. Leave that behind.
Yes. Something I love to say is operate in the realities of your business. Just because it worked over there, like, yes, we need to dissect and understand the why they were doing it and what were they looking to achieve. Because like, realistically, you could even like, someone posts it on LinkedIn or Twitter, like something you and I have talked about before is like, we have a tendency to go look and scour around the internet and be like, oh, so-and-so is doing this. I'm going to grab that as an idea. What if that's a losing idea for them? And like, we just copied it. Operate in the realities of your business, form the hypotheses around what's going on. Like, look at what's happening in your data, your customers, your products, because like copy and pasting from someone else on Twitter or from an example from your favorite, I don't know, X, Y, or Z brand doesn't, like, it could work, but if you don't know why you're doing it, it's probably not going to work.
And the other thing, like, it also could be one of those things where they're looking, their hypothesis is around some different metric.
Yes.
Of vanity, like maybe it's add to cart. I don't care about add to cart. But some business might, they shouldn't, but they might. So if that's what they were testing for and it works, and you're looking to increase revenue per visitor, which is by far the preferred metric, it probably won't work. So it's understanding that nuance. Now, it might be a good idea. And if you then can bring it in and say, what did they do? What can I apply from this to my site or my business, as you said? Sure, take it. But like you said, it has to be under the lens of your business, not just a lift and shift from somebody else over to you.
Lift and shift is a bar. I love that. And yeah, you're right. Like, I can't pay my suppliers with add to carts. So hey, if it's like, use it to get an understanding of what's happening. But like, hey, like we at IntelliJAMS, we love like revenue per visit, but even profit per visit. Like, look at the item profile, like the profile of the items you're selling. Are they actually like high margin, low margin? Like, that's where you're going to be able to build that like sound foundational business. Is like, am I actually getting more profit from what I choose to do than conversion rate, add to cart? Like, is that something we should maybe be leaving in 2025 as well? Is like, I'm not saying don't look at those metrics, but like having those be the metric. I think they're more like a supporting cast of characters.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Maybe we should just like restart this and say, leave those metrics behind, even conversion rate. Cause I don't like conversion rate. You talk about CRO, it's literally conversion rate optimization. I don't know that it matters. I don't know that it's like taking your temperature. Are you healthy? Sure. You're healthy. You got a good temperature, but it doesn't really help you move forward. So conversion rate to me is an indicator. It's a lagging indicator, right? It's like they've already converted. So great. But I've often said too, I can get a conversion rate at 100%. I'll just make everything on your site free.
Drop it to free. Drop it
Drop
to
it for
free.
free and you're going to sell out and then you're going to go out of business the next day. Revenue per visitor is that one number. Is it perfect? No. Should it be profit? Yes. Harder, but it's all about what am I driving towards? Like the business is run off of revenue. So optimize revenue, not the conversion. So yeah, I
Yep.
think, and maybe we just throw that into the best practices. Just throw all that nonsense that you've heard for the last 5-10 years out and think about it from the standpoint of how do you improve your business? What do I need to learn to improve my business?
You hit it when you're like, hey, this kind of like field for a long time has been called CRO. And like you said, it's in the name, conversion rate optimization. And I think like the reason you and I get along so well is like, hey, we don't really care about that. Like I want money for the business. I'm trying to build a better, more profitable, more foundationally sound business. Okay. And you and I, we kind of like jump between using the word testing and experimentation. And like the reason I keep on gravitating towards experimentation is that seems like we can kind of like get people thinking about this old way of doing something and changing it. Like I don't want people to just be trying to find a 1% gain in conversion rate here and like, hey, add to cart change by 3% here. I want people to be formulating strong hypotheses that could potentially change the business. And that's not quote CRO. That's like, hey, how do I build a better business and how do I experiment and tinker and like build towards that better outcome?
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. It's, it's ingrained. So sometimes I'll say testing, but I try to lean towards experimentation because
I use testing too. So
shorthand, it works. But when you think about an experiment, it's like you're trying to learn something. You don't know, you're trying to experiment. It feels more green or blue space. Like it feels more open. It feels more like, oh, well, I don't know exactly where I'm going. I have a direction, but what can I learn along that way? Which it just feels like a test is this versus that. An
yes.
experiment is it's starting here and I'm not quite sure where I'm going to end up. I know the path I want to kind of go along. I have a journey, but I don't have that clear outcome defined yet. And experimentation kind of gives you multiple ways because you should be iterating. It shouldn't be just a one and done. It should be, oh, I want to learn this. And then you find something in the data. You're like, well, that's interesting. I didn't expect that to happen. Well, let me go down that path and pull on those levers a little bit more and experiment with what if I did these things differently? So it just opens it up and makes it a little bit more freeing in my mind.
Yeah. Our CEO, he uses widen the aperture. Like we're taking pictures. It's like, hey, like if you look at testing and CRO, like you're so narrowly defined and you probably won't see anything outside of that context. Widen the aperture out so that like you're seeing more of the business and how what the one thing I did is impacting the next thing. So like the answer to the current question is probably the start of the next question and round we go. Is like when we talk about this experimentation mindset, that's what we're talking about more so than like A versus B, pick a winner, move on to the next A versus B, pick a winner. Like that, it could like, don't get me wrong. You don't like, you have to have these plus ones. But like, I love saying you don't get to 1 billion adding by ones, but you also can't multiply 0. So like find some of these places where you can find those quick wins, those small wins, and then find these things like what you were talking about there with like the blue ocean, the open space. Like, is there a 2x in there? Is there a 10x in there? Like, could we actually find something that would drastically change the business?
Yeah, for sure. And I think eh, leading into what we should do in
Yes, let's go there.
2026, I would say that's a great lead in, because now it's all right. Well, with that, intent and personalization become big players, and not the
Yes.
one-to-one personalization, because I think it's garbage. It's how do I understand different groups of people? So we've got an experiment, we've got something that's working, but maybe it's not working for everybody. Or maybe this group that it is working for is working so well that it's hiding the areas where it's not. That's where you can kind of go in and start thinking about it from the standpoint of like, all right, well, where are groups that are large enough to make a difference? Where are those groups and what are they doing? Like if you look at it and you're like, yeah, this is just a no-brainer because it's a better experience.
Yep.
Cool. Implement it. Stop testing it. Stop running the experiment. No personalization necessary. Build it into your site. But it's those areas where you're like, oh, okay. We got a lot of traffic coming to a PDP. Great. Well, some of it's great, some of it's bad. Social, probably not the best thing, right? It's typically bounces a lot.
Yep.
So what's your goal there? Well, coming in from social, maybe it's get them to make one click. Like that's the only metric you care about. How do you get them to stay and try and find a product they're going to fall in love with? But PLAs and Google Shopping come to a PDP as well. They have an intent to purchase. They're shopping.
Yep.
So how do you get them to fall in love with the product, even though they're assumed to be high intent and they're assumed to be, this is the product I love? We've actually found that's not the case. So how do you help them find other products? We're still dealing with the same page. It's the PDP. But if you treat everybody the same, you're going to get this average metric that doesn't necessarily improve everything. To your point of how do you get the plus ones versus the multiples of 10? Well, Google Shopping might be your multiple, and getting somebody to reduce bounce from social might be your plus one. Like you can start weighing those things on the exact same page.
Okay, two things you said in there that I want to dig deeper on. So you said, hey, one-to-one personalization is garbage. I want to get your thoughts on why that's the case. And then the second thing we were talking about, hey, social ad traffic versus like high intent, Google search, PLAs, like how do we find these? So let's start with why is one-to-one personalization garbage? And then you talked about like finding these groups. How do we expose those groups?
Mm-hmm. So I am a bit harsh with one-to-one personalization, because from what I've seen in typical retail space, you don't know your shopper. You don't know your customer. No, like a one-to-one personalization, I think would work great for banking where 95+% sign in, you know their email address, you know their profile, you have all this detailed information. Cool. Do one-to-one. It's like a no-brainer. Retail, most people purchase from the site once, twice, a couple times a year. They're not signing in. There's no reason to log in. You don't have their email until they're already going through checkout. So at that point, you're going to wait till next time and hope they come back.
Yep.
And then email. So it's just a lot of effort for what I've seen to be a very small proportion of your traffic. I'm going to be generous and round up to 5%. If you know 5% with email and enough profile information that you can do one-to-one, should you do that and then focus on that 5%? Or should you focus on the 95% that you don't know their email address or you don't know their profile, but you know where they came in from, you know how much time they're spending on the site, you know what products they're looking at. Like there's so many things that you can do there
Yep.
to make the experience better, get them to the conversion, get their email address, and then maybe think about if you can get them to come back, and then you roll into that. So one-to-one personalization is additive, but it's not where you should focus. And I think a lot of companies are pushing that as the pie in the sky. It's like, oh, well, if you send personalized emails or if you personalize with their profile, if you know they called the call center and then they send an email and then they walked into your store and then they came to your site, they're going to convert 10 times higher. What is that? 6 people? Great. I just wasted a whole bunch of effort on that. So that's where I think it's garbage. I think it's too focused on.
Yeah, I like that, especially like when we put so I guess we should share, Craig, Signet is jewelry. So like when Craig's talking about like, hey, people are making a purchase, might come back like one more time, just to put context around the thinking here. But I agree here with especially in e-commerce, the vast majority, and like this probably will shift in the next, let's call it 5 years, but the vast majority of traffic coming to a site right now is going to be through paid social. Like we're talking about Google versus paid social. Like the thing I always say is like, is it passive or active intent? Like if I search engagement ring on Google, I'm trying to buy something. If I see an ad for jewelry on social and like I wasn't actively shopping for it, it has interrupted my scroll and like, am I going to click it? Those are two very different things. So when you were talking about these like groups or intent, like if someone listening to this is like, okay, I'm not going to go this one-to-one personalization, but like I want to get more, what's the word I want here? Surgical, then okay, it has to work for everyone or it just doesn't work. How do I get in the middle?
Yeah. So we started very, very elementary. We literally started with how many pages did a person look at? And we looked at we went into analytics because that's where we start everything. Like data is going to tell you the story and you just need to
realities
search.
of your business, realities of your business.
And what we said was like, okay, we literally just started changing page numbers, like how many pages to see differences in conversion rate. As silly as it was, this was like 5-6 years ago. It was like, all right, well, let's just pick a number. So we said 5 pages. What does that do? And then we said, all right, well, 5 pages. If we go to 6 pages, then we saw a jump. So we're like, oh, okay, that's kind of cool. And then we're like, all right, well, where did that number really jump? And we got to like 15 pages. And yes, we sell jewelry, but I've seen it work in in other situations as well. You just have to find something that kind of translates to, okay, this person really wants to be here. They really want to shop. So we just started with that and said, okay, anybody who is what we call low intent, so under 6 pages, we would say they're low intent, and we would think about, well, what do we need to do to get that low intent shopper actively engaged in shopping? How do we get them to page 6? How do we get them to see 8 pages? We didn't care if they saw 8 products. We just wanted them to engage with the site and see 8 pages, because we knew if we saw 8 pages, they had a higher likelihood to see 15, and 15 was where we had high intent. So if you just look at those two ends, after they had 15 pages, then it was very clear that they were shopping, they were looking for something. Then it was like, all right, somebody who is high intent, well, we don't want them looking at 45 pages. That just seems like a bad experience. But they've shown signal that they want to look at something and they're shopping for something. So how do we help them? So then the mindset shifted from helping them build their consideration set to helping them finalize their consideration set. Very simple. And like you said, we do sell jewelry. So we also looked at the products they were looking at. An engagement ring shopper is very different than somebody who's buying anything other than an engagement ring. The timeline, the research, all the things that you're putting in, the emotional value that you're putting into an engagement ring is going to be vastly different than buying a necklace for yourself.
Yep.
So that was the other play. It's like, if we helped you find an engagement ring, or if we sense that you were searching and shopping for an engagement ring, how do we create an experience that helped you find the right engagement ring? We had those 5 macros. That's where we started. That's where we ran for 3.5, 4, 5 years, just looking at those 5 things. And it was a huge win. Now we're more sophisticated, but you don't have to start there.
Yeah. And like, I think if you're going to start, again, getting in the middle space here, like you hit on a few things like, hey, we've got channel. Channel can be a group. What products are they looking at? What products have they bought? And then you kind of hit on it with the engagement ring here is I've had this conversation a few times where it's like the mindset of the shopper. I feel like every business can probably chop up the type of buyer into like 4 different segments. Like that's another way to group where like, hey, I've got like the actual data points and they viewed this many pages. They came from this channel. They have bought these things. And then I can go more to kind of like, something we talk about on this show a lot is experimentation is like equal parts science and art. Let's go more on like the art side is Craig is thinking this way because the type of purchase he is like about to make looks like this. And again, like that's a layer of sophistication. And if people want to learn more about that, I think it's probably a good spot to kind of end this here. Is like, if you want to know more about this, I'll put a link in the show notes. We call it the 3 E's framework. What we're talking about right here is the explore. And I'll link to a spot where you guys can go and learn more about this explore side. Craig also talks about this all the time on LinkedIn. So we'll get Craig's LinkedIn into the show notes as well. Give him a follow. He has tips and tricks on these all the time. Craig, is there anywhere else that people should be paying attention? If it's your like other social accounts we should be directing people to, if there's other resources that you think people should be taking a look at?
I mean, I think LinkedIn's probably the best place to start. Like you said, I've linked out my side hustle site on there as well. A lot of the stuff that I put on LinkedIn is expanded in more article form on my site. But other than that, I would just say reach out. I could geek out about this stuff all day long. So I'm more than happy to talk to anybody, help try and get this idea of like what you should throw away, conversion rate, and how you should focus more on revenue, or think about how you can think about what your site is selling and how you can find segments and find personalization opportunities that you might not think about. We talked like engagement to necklace, right? Pretty straightforward, but it applies to anything else, anything that you're selling. Like think about a crafting site, right? Painting versus knitting. That's a
Yep.
pretty cool distinction. Like there's opportunities out there, and I don't know, I haven't seen a lot of retailers actually sit down and think about what they're selling. They think about all the stuff they're selling, but they're not thinking about how are people actually buying these things, and then changing the site based on that. Like that's the easiest, clearest first step in getting a win in personalization.
I love it. We'll get Craig's LinkedIn in the show notes. We'll get his site for the longer form in the show notes as well. TLDR of this conversation, we're in the new year. Throw out conversion rate. Throw out the fortune cookie wisdom you're getting on social. Actually go build in the realities of your business. As we go into 2026, think about intent and how can we create groups and personalize the experience for those groups, and find the next thing to experiment with. Find the next thing to test in the in-between space of all of those different groups. There's a lot of opportunity. Craig gave the example in jewelry, crafting, whatever you are selling, there are ways to build these groups and build experiments inside of those. So Craig, thanks for joining. This was blast.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks, man.